Hi, I'm Trooper Smacka.
Hi, I'm Trooper Wellman,
Please stay tuned for a behind-the-scenes look at being a state trooper.
and together we can make a difference.
Here we are live at the 360 Vegas studios with Trooper Wellman, here for another edition of Trooper Talk. Trooper Wellman, I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened. So this is after Christmas now. And so Sergeant Bracek is a dear friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so I texted him on Christmas. And I said, Merry Christmas, this and that, you know what I mean? He's very quick to respond on the text. Like, he's very fast. No response. An hour and a half later, I wrote back to him and said, because we're going to take a picture together this coming week. And I said, listen, we can take the picture and stuff like that. And he wrote back and he put, Merry Christmas, on fatal, 3-year-old child died. Okay? Now, while we're out doing and playing and doing all these here's someone who saw death on their doorstep. And that's what they have to see.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so, like, it always hits home when we talk on the Trooper Talk. But, like, you know what I mean? Like, it you know what I'm saying? And so
this situation, I personally feel that all crashes are preventable. Granted, if there was a medical episode, then that's a little different. But for the most part, all crashes are preventable if you play the what ifs. Like, well, what if they would have slowed down? What if they would have paid full attention? What if they would have had their seatbelt on? Things like that. When Sergeant Bracek called me on the fatal, and gave me the preliminary details, he said that it was a van occupied 6 times, had failed to negotiate a curve, and then I believe he said it overcorrected and ran off the road. And when it ran off the road, it lost control and overturned. Pretty much everybody in that van was transported. One airlifted, I believe that was a juvenile, and then everybody, for the most part, was transported by ground, and one did not make it, and it was a child. And he later told me the child was 4 years old.
4, you're right.
And I asked him, were they not restrained, right? No, the child was restrained correctly. Were they speeding? No, we don't feel that, at this point. Like, they were still in the middle of the investigation, so this is why it's all preliminary, because it's still being investigated. But at that time, they didn't feel that speed played a factor. Like, they weren't traveling at a high rate of speed. So they were trying to make sense of it. Why did this tragedy happen? And I think crashes like that almost mess with you a little bit more, just because you're like, wait, why did this happen, right? Or how could it have been prevented? And granted, even if they weren't traveling at a high rate of speed, that's why we always talk about, like, when it's raining or weather, or if you're not familiar with a road that you've never driven on before, just always take caution when traveling on it, because even if you're going the posted speed limit or maybe just a little bit faster than it, if a curve comes out of the corner, like if you're going around a bend and all of a sudden, no, there's this curve, and you're not anticipating that, or you were messing with the radio, or you're talking to your passengers in the car, and then all of a sudden it startles you, your reflex of your reaction, right, to jerking the wheel is going to cause the crash. This crash is just super tragic and unfortunate. And I actually, like, listening to Sergeant Bracek on the phone, for the most part, sounded pretty calm. And then as he was describing it to me and telling me the details, I could tell he was visualizing it, right? Even though he wasn't, like, maybe he was in his car when he called me, but he's visualizing it as he was saying it out loud. And I could tell that one's going to mess with him. This is a child. Like, children and animal are innocent. And, like, it just hits differently when you have to experience that. And I think it's amazing that you reached out to him, and you know him so well. I always joke with you and I say you're basically one of us, like, you're part of the family. But that's a prime example of that you pick up on signs that other partners would pick up on. It's like, hey, that's not normal. Why isn't he responding?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Right? And we have a saying, like, on the radio, if I say, like, I need another unit, compared to if I'm like, hey, I need another unit. Like, you can tell there's a difference in my voice because you know me personally.
Yeah.
And so those are things that come with the job. and working together. It's like a team, right? It's
Yeah.
like sports. Like, you know what you're going to do next. And you knew right away, you're like, that's odd. Something's
Yeah.
off. And that's because you're a good friend.
And so Mitch's Munchies, okay? So Mitchie is his wife.
Yeah.
And she makes all of the cakes and everything. By the way, we got to give a shout out. She's the best, okay?
That's awesome,
like the
yeah.
best. And so if you need anything, Johnny will put up the website on the thing. But what I'm saying is this: she makes the fat-free, sugar-free cakes, the pies, everything for all of us. You know that we give away the baskets and stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
5 minutes before this, she texted me a picture of her and Jason. Sorry, Sergeant Project, right? The photo together.
Oh.
And then, right after that, it was like simultaneously that. And so the thing is that, it's heart-wrenching.
It is. That one definitely hit home for me because my daughter's 4 years old. So as he's describing it, I'm just thinking that could have been, my family or
Yeah.
any one of us, right? And that's why I was like, was the child in a car seat? And he's like, yes. It's just the way the van rolled, and it's just like,
And
it's just
so
unfortunate.
and so sometimes when it comes to these tragedies, right? like we do everything with the seatbelt and all this, and sometimes things happen. But I just it's really devastating,
Absolutely.
And so and then I watched on the roadways, with people and stuff like this, and still I drive at night, and these people blow past me at 125 miles an hour. I mean, and they think it's like the racetrack.
Yeah, I just saw on there's a social media page I follow that's not law enforcement related. It's just like the community that posts stuff on there that they see in Las Vegas. And I don't know if it was last night or the other night, but there was like a pickup truck driving down the boulevard, and it had hit multiple vehicles. It was an impaired driver. Its whole front wheel was gone, and it was just driving. It was completely caught on fire, and they just kept going. And then finally it crashed where it stopped. And my thought was, I know people are calling this in. Where are the units at? And then at the same time, this truck was traveling at such a high rate of speed. I'm sure units were trying to get there. But it's just people not planning ahead, and they just not caring about others. And it's really sad because they're going to hurt somebody else, and it's just not worth it.
Yeah, nothing to do with this tragedy of obviously the child. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
But
one just.
I mean, like other people. You mean like and so that's but like these people who are driving. My wife and I we were in the car the other day, and or eating lunch. That's where we were, and some person in the does the motorcycle wheelie. You know what I mean? In and out of traffic, and it's like.
You have different emotions on fatals. I mean, I feel personally. So, if I roll up on a fatal where an impaired driver took the life of somebody, you feel a lot of different emotions. You feel angry. You feel sad. You feel, confused. Like, just why? Like, it could have all been prevented. Why did you do this, right? But like a fatal on Christmas Day where the van rolled and a child's life was taken, that one you're just devastated because, like I said, it's just... We don't use the word accident, but I'm going to use it. It's just an accident. Like, they failed to negotiate the curve, right? Like, I don't know if they weren't paying attention in the car or not, and we may never know. Maybe as the investigation progresses and they interview him and stuff, the driver and that. But ultimately, it was just tragedy. Just so sad.
Yeah. All right, let's get some pictures going. Yes. So, I wanted to bring this up. I was watching a show that they followed the police, on TV and stuff like this.
Mhm.
Okay, and so the officer pulled a car over like on a certain part of the road, and he says, after he got out of his car and he walked up to the car he was pulling over, and he says, "Listen, I just want to make this very quick because last night I pulled somebody over in the same spot and somebody came up behind me and smashed my truck because they were drunk." And so the online, the TV program had it because they were following the thing. And so this officer was there doing his job, you know what I mean, not bothering anybody. and an impaired driver came up with someone with flashing lights and smashed into him. And that's why I wanted to bring this up again. And when you do this, you put your life at risk to just say, I just need your license and registration. Your tag is expired, or, whatever it is.
Mm-hmm. So, when we walk up on a car, going back to training new officers and when we're trained as well, we walk up on these cars and we don't know what's inside the vehicle. We don't know who we're walking up on. We have all these dangers we're approaching. And so as we approach the vehicle, we're shining our light. We're trying to talk to them, make sure we're safe. But really, that's just half of your threat. Your real danger is behind you, and you have to constantly keep your head on that swivel watching for traffic, because we work on the highways. So like I always say, we're dealing with speeds of a minimum 65 miles an hour. So you're constantly on the swivel, like while they're looking for their paperwork, you're watching their hands and what they're doing, but you're looking at the traffic. And every time you hear that squelch of like a tire, your heart stops, because you like instantly tense up, and you're like, oh my gosh, here it comes. One of the first things I was ever trained or taught, and I always pass this along to others, is the second you get out of your vehicle, we do passenger side approach. We don't even do driver usually, because depending on where we're at, because of being next to that travel lane, we want to give ourselves at least some protection. So we do passenger side. And as I step out of my vehicle, 9 out of 10 times the shoulder you pulled over on, because we're familiar with our highways and where we're stopping the vehicle. But let's say we just stop somewhere random. I'm looking over that Jersey wall to see if there's a drop, because if there's not, if let's say that someone came out shooting at me or a danger to me, I need to know where I can run. I need to know if I can jump over this wall and get to cover or get away. I need to know if a car comes up and is like and about to crash into the back of me, if I can jump over this wall for some protection, or if I'm jumping in the suspect's car. What am I doing? I'm already playing or trying to figure out a plan before I even approach this vehicle.
Yes.
There's so many things that go into your safety in this career. And that's why we say it's just not for everybody, because you have to be able to multitask. You have to be able to constantly be thinking. And when you go home, you really have to make sure you just drop your adrenaline, because you're running on a 10 all day. And you have to decompress when you get home, so that way you are fresh and rested for the next day. But yeah, so I personally think, yes, obviously it's a threat inside the vehicle. I don't know what's going on in here, but my biggest threat is traffic behind me, and I'm constantly watching for it. And I need to have an exit plan. Where am I going to run? What am I going to do if this car was to come and sideswipe me? So it's just very scary. It's just part of the dangers of the profession. But don't get me wrong, there's a lot of good with our profession, and I love what I do, and helping others is what it's all about.
But and that's what makes it so wonderful. You know what I mean? That's why we love, when you come on the Trooper Talk and we talk and all this type of stuff, because it is real.
Yeah.
Right? It's not scripted. We're not figuring out what to do, and teleprompters and things like this, right? But this just makes it even more scary. Mm-hmm. That, we had a trooper who lost his life, not in this situation, but something similar to this. And so I always bring light to the fact of that, like you just said, every time that you step out of your protection of your car, who knows what you're dealing with. And
the car is just a little extra layer of protection, but ultimately I've had partners get hit in the car, and if they were out of the car, it would have they wouldn't have had any injuries, because sometimes taking a hit in the car is worse too. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen, but at least try to prepare for the worst. So like, for example, this situation, just looking at the backdrop, if I would have exited my patrol vehicle and walked up, I would have seen there's a whole desert area right there, and doing my best to try to keep an eye on the traffic and my suspect, or I'm sorry, the individual I'm working with. I would have tried to run into that desert, but we could play the woulda, coulda, shoulda all day. Yeah. It happens very quickly, and how you react is how you react. You can't go back. So hopefully that deputy is okay. But last thing I'll say on that is, in the academy, we actually train that, impaired drivers are actually attracted to our lights. And we say it's like a moth or like a fly, when they have the light up, the insect lights. It's just like that with an impaired driver. They see the lights and it attracts them because it catches their attention. And so then they start to drift towards us. So more reason to be on guard constantly.
Yeah, I never thought of that. But yes, 100%. And that's why we always pull to the right. And like you said, the last thing I'm going to say is, when you activate your lights and your sirens to pull someone over, because, and we've had this conversation, because you know the roads,
Mm-hmm.
you know the best place for someone to pull over, right? So it's not around a curve or something like this, right?
Yes. I mean, there are those few occasions where a car may be traveling reckless and I got to activate my lights now to stop it,
Right.
because it's a danger for themselves or someone else. And maybe it's not the best shoulder. But with that being said, if you ever get a police vehicle or emergency vehicle behind you on a highway and, we're going at a high rate of speed, 65 miles an hour, and let's say I activate my lights and sirens, don't abruptly stop. Don't slam on your brakes. I know it's going to startle you, but don't abruptly stop if you can. Turn on your turn signal, and while still traveling 65 miles an hour, or if you want to decrease a little bit, that's okay, but start slowly moving over to the right shoulder, and I will guide you with my patrol vehicle and stop traffic behind us so you can start moving over. It doesn't have to be an abrupt, I got to get to the right shoulder immediately. Don't apply your brakes and stop abruptly, because all that's going to do is cause a crash. And we don't want that to happen. And then also, if you don't feel safe, like you pull over on the highway and maybe you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm really scared, it's okay to activate your hazard lights and decrease your speed, get all the way to the right. If you want to take the next exit, that's perfectly fine. And you can go on the surface street, or maybe there's a gas station, you can pull over there. Remember, we are stopping you where we feel is a safe location, but if you feel, it just happens a lot. That's why I'm bringing it to your attention.
No.
Is a lot of people will, take the exit, and sometimes the troopers will be like, they're not traveling at a high rate of speed, but I don't know if they're evading. They're just failing to yield. So turn on your hazard lights, just so it's kind of like you're letting us know, I see you. I'm just pulling over, right?
Right.
So
and sometimes somebody can be pulled over for a minor thing just to
Yeah.
let someone know that it's not always just this major thing. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
listen, something happened or what? You know what I mean? Your tire is flat. I mean, who knows? But
Exactly,
But,
yeah.
but like, we're just letting you know, right?
yeah, your gas cap's hanging out.
Yeah, I saw that this morning. You know what I'm saying? All right. So this one here, Craig, who's the sergeant for Boulder City, part of the IPOF. Hopefully you're going to be there in January with her meeting, right? All right. But anyway, I put this up there because,
It's insane, right?
the driver said in the news article that the reason he was going 122 miles an hour is because he was keeping up with traffic.
Then
And so, I don't know this road. You know what I'm saying? I've been to Boulder City, and I know that there's one road that goes into that Boulder City. That main. That you can travel fast.
yes.
But once you get into Boulder City, it's very small little things. I mean, you know what I mean? You're not
I'll
driving 122
I'll tell you
miles.
this: the 95 South, which is considered now the I-11, if you're passing like Horizon College,
Yeah.
Wagon Wheel, and then you're starting to go to Boulder City, that's 65 miles an hour. And then you go into Boulder City, which then drops down to 55, all the way down to 35 in their city, where like it just keeps decreasing
Yeah.
as you go through their town. So, 65 is the fastest you can get in that area. So this is unbelievable.
Unbelievable.
We actually had 131 on Christmas Day as well down in our Prim area. I haven't posted it yet. I'm going to post it today. Actually, this just reminded me. But 131 coming from the IR-15 northbound towards Las Vegas, down by like State Line.
People don't realize how fast that is.
Can you believe
Like you know what I mean? Like
131? You know that car was shaking, and you know that they were just like, whoa, like I'm taking off. Like, I mean, if there was a pothole in the roadway,
Yeah.
if a car swerved, if an animal ran in the roadway, anything, there's no reaction time. It's done. There's no reacting.
And when I take my drive on Sunday, I do notice there's a lot of places that, depending on what you're driving, there are larger potholes on the freeway that will hit the car and make it shake, or you know what I mean, like
Especially if a low profile car, absolutely.
131 miles.
131. And I just saw the other day on Friday, Christmas Sunday, so Friday, I was driving home and I saw there was a semi stopped on the IR-15 in like 215 area, and it must have broke down, and it was just stopped. And then we count our travel lanes left to right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I was stopped in the number 3 travel lane, and it was daytime, and I was like, oh my gosh, but I was on a different freeway, so I called it in, and a unit got there. But imagine going 122 miles an hour or 131, and you have a stationary semi that you can't tell that they're stationary at the time because it's like you have to get closer to see that something's not moving. You have no time to react. You're done.
You're done.
It's
done.
game over.
And people are not taking into account. It doesn't matter if you buy a fast car, you rent one of these cars. It makes no difference.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That these speeds are too fast. And when you drive, and it's not to be silly and to say a 4-door sedan. You know what I mean? But those cars are not made to go that speed.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying that you're authorized to do it in one of those cars that can, but
Fatal consequences.
Fatal consequences. All right.
Yes.
Look at this.
Okay, so I actually, if you remember Lieutenant White, he's the second one. He came on the show.
Yes.
So we have Trooper McKinnon. He's actually one of he might be our most senior trooper, actually. And you can see all his stripes on his arm. Each little hash mark on your arm symbolizes 4 years of service. So he has 1, 2, 3. What, he's got like 6? He's got like 20 years on, a little over 20 years.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like one of our most senior troopers. And then you have Lieutenant Perez.
Right.
And then you have Sergeant Bobby Burchard. And so Trooper McKinnon and Sergeant Burchard started a tradition over, oh my goodness, I think it's been going for over 20 years. I'm not even kidding. It was a sergeant, and his name is Sergeant Lee. Oh, Lee. You know Sergeant Lee from IPOF.
It's Charlie.
Charlie Lee. Okay, so he started this years ago, and you can ask him about it. He actually collects money or they take money, how do I want to say this? Troopers donate money every year, a certain amount, and we don't make that much, and so it really comes from our heart. We donate money so that they can purchase blankets, stuffed animals, and this year we had, if you see Lieutenant Perez, she's holding actually a car, and it's our patrol car, and they make all these goodie bags, and they go to every hospital here in town, to the children's area, like the trauma and stuff, and they give them each a bag, and we have patches in there, stickers, and they go and they see them in uniform on the Christmas week, and then they take it one step further, and they actually go down to a highly populated area where there's homeless individuals, and they give them blankets and like toiletries and little goodie bags that they've made just so that they're warm for the winter, but it's all out of their own pocket, and they do this out of the own kindness of their heart. Like nobody told them to do this like that, and it started I think 20 years ago with Sergeant Lee, and he passed it to Sergeant Burchard, who's taking it on, and it's so amazing, and they look forward to it every year. And even though only 4 of them got to go this year and hand it out just because of staffing purposes, but there's so many troopers behind the scene that actually made this possible. So everybody played a big part in this. It's really cool.
That's great. Well, when I see him at the IPOF, I'm gonna be like, listen, you need to come on Trooper Talk,
and he'll tell you all about it.
Yeah.
And he was really the founding father of it. So
Johnny, that's your friend Charlie Lee.
Yeah.
That's your long lost cousin, huh? You make sure when we see him at the IPOF meeting, we need to get him on camera, okay?
And they usually have Santa come with them, but this year, I don't
great.
think they had Santa come with them this year. But they usually have Santa go up there, and Santa has trooper patches on and everything, and then he goes and gives the teddy bears.
Great.
It's awesome because, again, the badge is very heavy. We see a lot of bad things in this job, and that's why it's important for us to balance it out with the good and giving back to our community, and especially our children in need. That's what balances out for them.
Yeah, no, it's fantastic. I love it, and I love seeing this. And again, let's give a shout out to you because you did the with the Christmas gifts at the highway to bring into the office, right?
The toy drive,
the toy drive, and all that type of stuff. And so you're always doing. You know what I mean? And so I know you're never in the picture, but I know that you're very in there behind the scenes too. You know what I mean?
Thank
and
you.
So just as everybody is, you know what I'm saying?
family,
But it's really wonderful, and that's why one of the reasons everybody always asks, why do you do it with the troopers? I go, I do it with everybody, but that's why I love doing everything because it's really about it's not about the money at all.
Yeah.
It's really about how can we help and how can we give. And that's something it's fantastic.
Yeah, we all share those values, right?
Yeah, 100%. Love it.
Mm.
All right.
Yeah, so I went out to this one. So this is I-11 in mile marker 2. Again, it's right by Boulder City or the Arizona state line, if you want to say. It's unknown at this time why it had occurred, but for unknown reasons, this driver failed to maintain his lane, drifted over, and then overcorrected and overturned. He could have fell asleep, could have been distracted, maybe lost control, like failed to negotiate the curve. There's a lot of factors there. Maybe we'll know more as the investigation progresses, or we may never know why he failed to maintain his lane. All we know is that he failed to maintain his lane and negotiate the curve. And then he overcorrected, causing it to overturn. And unfortunately, this individual did lose his life that night because he ended up going through that guardrail. And this was the holiday week as well, prior to Christmas. So
And you know what we want to talk about is the fact that, you know, I don't know this person, but, you know, making himself a living, you know what I mean, like, you know, driving whatever he's doing, you know, to deliver the goods.
it was food, yeah, it was a food truck.
And stuff like that. And so the thing that I wanted to talk about with this was that even though there was no other people around, you know, that we still want to pay homage and respect to the fact that, you know, this individual was just trying to do what he was doing to help us.
Yeah.
You know, like to deliver, you know,
Food.
I didn't know what was inside, but
Yeah, it was
I'm just saying like foods and services and stuff like that. So
yeah, this one was sad, and it was, I guess you could say, kind of a rural area. And whenever you go on crashes like this, it's very quiet out there, and it's dark, right? Because it's not a highly populated area, and it's almost like time stops when you're standing there.
Yeah.
And you can like hear yourself breathing, and then to see the individual, it's devastating. It's so sad because that's someone's loved one. But I will say, anytime a semi is involved, you know, we have some major road closures. And so for this one, this off-ramp was closed for, oh my goodness, until the next day. I know that. It was closed for almost 24 hours.
yeah. And again, another psychological factor that you have to see. Man, woman, you know what I mean? Child, doesn't make a difference, but, you know, you had to see death.
Yeah.
And then at the end of seeing death, then you have to go home to your family and say, "Oh, hi, I'm here to open. You know, I'm here to hang out and watch a movie." I you know what I'm saying? Like you said, it's you know, to do it and then turn off. It's something
You have
that
to turn it off.
Yeah,
You have to find that balance.
yeah. I don't know how you do it. I try to do it with the business over there. You know what I mean? But the difference is that like at 6 o'clock, I'm done. Like I can, my wife and I, we used to work all the time, and then and when we used to sell online, and you never stopped working in that way.
Yeah.
Right. So like, you know, you're always, you know, you're checking emails or you're checking this, and so like for 7 years, so now we've gotten to the point where, like, you know, when we're done, we're done.
Good.
And so, you know, so obviously we talk or whatever when we get home, but I'm just saying that
You have to turn it off.
Right. And so
Separate it.
it's very difficult, though, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
If you smoke marijuana and you drive impaired, you will be arrested.
Yeah, School Police is crazy with their their little graphics. They're so silly. Yeah, that's School Police right there.
So let's talk about this. So people that smoke marijuana and they get behind the wheel, there's no, I don't know, like when you drink and you drive, you know, you can say like, okay, one drink or one, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But with the marijuana, with the different levels or something, right?
Strings, yeah.
They, you know, you don't know.
Even if you are someone that is, you know, consumes marijuana on the regular, and you feel like pretty like you're a functioning individual that could be impaired, you cannot get behind the wheel of a motor vehicle. It doesn't matter. You know, with marijuana, there is, it's a time. We go off of time. And then obviously, based upon your field sobriety test, if we feel that you can't safely, you know, operate your motor vehicle and the results of your field sobriety test. But ultimately, it's time. There's no way to sober up from smoking marijuana, right? Like,
Yeah, that's what
and
I mean.
it's same thing with alcohol. Even though people say, "Oh, drink coffee or drink water," or this and that. Unless you're getting an IV, you can't. You can eat as much tacos as you want, but you're not gonna sober up. You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
the same. It's the same thing. So, it does. Impaired driving is not just alcohol. It is absolutely marijuana, even though it's legal here in town. But it is not legal to drive and get behind the wheel of a motor vehicle if you're impaired. It's as simple as that. And again, we have a zero tolerance for it. So
Yeah, and it's the same with, I mean, it's not here, but the same with prescription drugs, right?
absolutely.
Like somebody takes the prescription drug and, they don't realize or read or something like this. That's not the time to take the prescription drug and get behind the wheel.
Yeah, or maybe like you were supposed to take it on a full stomach and you were rushing out of the house and you took your medicine. You didn't realize you were supposed to eat with it, and now you're not feeling right and you're dizzy. Like, pull over. Don't drive your car. Like, call someone to come get you, or pull over to a safe location until you can go eat or get some water and stuff. Because sometimes the medications just affect you differently. You can be taking it for years, and then maybe that one day you just feel off. Don't put yourself in that situation.
Yeah, and because if you do, you could not only ruin your life, but you could ruin someone else's life.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you're not just putting your life at risk, you're putting someone else's life at risk while you want to do whatever it is that you're doing.
Yeah, and
Yep.
that's the big picture of it, is like you're endangering others.
Yeah,
You
100%.
know?
So don't do this stuff. There they are.
So, our joining forces.
These guys are the greatest.
So joining forces is a grant-funded operation here in Actually, it's statewide, but we post a lot down here in Las Vegas because all of our departments come together on this one. I think it's like 7 or 8 agencies come together, mainly our motor units. And they will pick an enforcement to enforce that day, and they'll do multiple locations. And for the month of December till January, I say it's like the 13th or something, we're enforcing speed. And then after that, it'll be like distracted driving or cell phone or things like that. But for right now, it's speed. And so that's why they're up there with the LiDAR. And, like we've said many times before, that LiDAR can see over a mile away. So you'll never see them. By the time you see them and you decrease your speed, they already saw you speeding.
Yeah.
So if you don't speed in the
Yeah.
first place, you'll be fine.
Right.
But yeah, they go out there, and for that day, the day they did this initiative, they had 273 vehicles, and they issued 217 citation, and they even had an impaired driver. And then before this one, it was like a couple days before this one, they did, I think it was 244 stops or 233 stops, and issued, again, up in the 200s with the citations, like, and people, thinking, oh, it's a speed trap.
Yeah.
No, it's actually to slow you down, because we've either had fatalities in this area, or we've seen an increase in crashes in this area, or pedestrian deaths. And so we want to work these areas to slow cars down for everyone's safety, because that's our job, is
Yeah.
to make sure everyone gets to their destination safely. So that's why they pick these locations. The public has written to us saying, can you slow people down at 95 in Decatur? Like, they're going too fast during the day. It's a construction zone, this, that. Okay, hey, we hear you. So now we're going to go out there, and you can see us. We're out there because we're listening. And that's really what it is. It's us helping our community.
Yeah. So this morning I had to take my car in, and as I was driving down to Henderson, they had one of the troopers off to the side of the road, it's just sitting there, no lights on, no nothing, right? And all of a sudden, everybody's in there, traveling, and everybody slams on the brakes, right? And, because he's up here, they slam on the brakes, and everybody slams, and so, like, you're like, what's going on? It's like, well, if you weren't going 100 miles an hour, right, and you were going 65 or 70,
Yeah.
then you could have just continued in the path.
You would have just been like, hey.
Right, like, hey, what's going on? But you were doing 100 miles an hour, and so he's up here, and they already got you if you're speeding. You know what I mean? And he didn't move. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Maybe he was just, just showing the presence of, to get people to slow down or whatever. But it was just like, if you're not going that fast, then you have nothing to worry about. Just drive like
And you witnessed the ripple effect. So that one car that was speeding slammed on their brakes,
Yeah.
causing the next person behind them to abruptly slam on their
Yes.
brakes, to slam on their brakes all the way back. Now everybody's slamming on their brakes, and it's like, what's happening?
Yes. And the end person doesn't slam on their brakes because they don't understand what's going on 20 cars away.
Yeah.
right? And that's where you get into a crash because they're like, oh, what's going on? Let me check the radio, and then all of a sudden there's a van in front of her, a car, or what?
Yeah. It's that fast.
Yep. What do we have here?
Oh, this is our toy drive.
Oh, the toy drive.
Yeah. So you were touching on it earlier.
Yes. the
So
toy
thank
drive.
you
We
again
love it.
so much for your donation. It went a long way.
Yes, of course. We love this.
We posted up at our station and we did a toy drive just for 4 hours, and we had thousands of dollars worth of toys. We had 27 bicycles. Lucky, the mascot from the Henderson Silver Knights, came out, and some of his teammates came out. It was so cool. Did meet and greets with the kids. We even had we had Santa there. We had a whole photo backdrop, everything. Anybody that came out and donated a toy could go take a free photo, and they would get the digital print with Santa. We had the motorcycle in there, so you could sit on the motorcycle next to Santa. It was great. I had the news come out, so I had the news sit on the motorcycle and take their photos, and it was just awesome. And then we loaded everything in our motor trailer, and we did a whole police escort over to Chet Buchanan and his toy drive.
Yeah.
And as we came through with our lights and siren, it was really powerful, actually. It was beautiful. And we came through, and he was giving us the shout outs on the radio, and his counterpart, her name's Maddie. I think I'll always remember this, but she was on the radio, and as we came through with our lights and sirens, she was like, oh my gosh, it looks so beautiful. And she's like, I'm literally crying. She's like, I don't know why I'm crying, but I'm crying. It's just like, it's so moving that they all came out. And then he was like, why are you crying? And then she's like, I don't know. But as I heard her say that on the radio, I forget how powerful when you see multiple vehicles because it was dark like this with our lights on, and how it's just the impact it has on somebody and it catches your attention. And I don't know. It was just really cool and special to be there in that moment to give back. And all of these donations go back to the community. So that's, I think, was like a full circle of why we wanted to help Chet Buchanan and his team out. And we haven't done this for years. And I had never had the opportunity to do this. So this was my first time putting something like this together. That's why we did like 4 hours, set up the photo backdrop and stuff. But now that I know the impact it had, next year will be bigger and better.
Yeah.
We're going to go way bigger and better. And I'm going to do it probably for a couple weeks of toy donations.
Yeah.
So that way we can get more than just the 4 hours. But, I mean, I tell you what, though, we for us only doing it for 4 hours, we had an amazing turnout. And people like yourself that stepped up and donated to us is what made it all possible. So thank you.
Yeah. And it's cool because you're always, again, we talked about it earlier, but you're always initiating these type of things. And so the cool part about it is, and that's why we love to be a part of it, because the thing is that there's no ill will. You just want, goodness for the community, goodness for the children. You know what I'm saying? Like, and all this. And so, like, just to see this is like, it's just so worth it.
Yeah.
It's like
same.
that's what it's all worth. And so, when you see the state police, all the cars glistening.
Yeah.
I could see it as a very moving moment in a very positive way.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Because most people don't see it they see it in a negative. And so I think that part of what we have to do and what we're doing now, right, is we had sort of this maybe negative law enforcement thing or whatever,
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And so we're rebuilding.
Absolutely.
And so it's getting back to the positiveness that you provide, and so like to see this is just really great. And it's great to see that other community partners
Yeah, right?
step up, because that's what makes it. Not that an individual who's coming over and bringing a gift isn't fantastic, but we need the businesses and community partners. They don't have to, it's not about the money,
No.
right? Like, sometimes it's just about volunteering to help.
Presence alone, like
Right.
they just came out, and Lucky coming out, this was a weekend too, and him coming out with his staff and hanging out with the kids, and just like, actually that's my daughter right there in the brown jacket. And look at her face, like she's so excited to see him, and all the other kids there too. It's just like, we have that impact, but it's also very special to see the impact he had on the kids. So it was really cool.
Yes, and we love to see the smiles. Because
Excuse me.
That's what it's about.
Yeah, it was
You know
all
what I
about
mean?
the
Like
joy.
The child is so innocent. You know what I mean? And so to
Yeah.
just see a child that have the smile, it's fantastic. So
Yeah.
we love it.
It was so fun.
Yep.
Oh yes.
New Year's Eve. Let's talk about some positiveness.
Yes.
Okay, so coming up this week, and we now have the Trooper Talk 3 times a week for this month of December, and then in the month of January we have it too. I was going to tell you today.
Wow.
Okay, so we now have Trooper Talk on Thursday at 3:55. Then we have for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Then we have Trooper Talk, all different episodes. We have Trooper Talk on Sunday at 6:30 in the morning for 3 minutes and 30 seconds. Right, Johnny? 3:30? And then we have it on Tuesday at 11:55 a.m., right out of the news,
Oh wow.
on Channel 13, and that's 4 minutes and 55 seconds.
Oh wow.
And so with this happening now, you know, and we talk about New Year's Eve, you know what I mean? People come and they party and they have fun and do all that type of stuff. At the end of the day, people still have to get home after they're done doing whatever it is, activities that they're doing.
Yes.
And so there's a lot of ride services. We know that you put it on the Twitter, right? And the RTC and stuff like that. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So we're anticipating approximately 350,000 people to come to Las Vegas for New Year's Eve to celebrate. A lot, right? Could be more. And we want people to come to our city. We're one of the top destinations in the world, and so we want people to come here. But with that being said, is we want people to have a good time, but to do it safely and to help prevent any fatalities from happening or people making bad choices and getting behind the wheel and being impaired. We've put other options in place to make it even easier and convenient for them, such as RTC announcing that they're giving free rides, and a bus can hold quite a few people, so you probably won't be waiting long if you had to use transportation with RTC. We also are offering, Lyft is offering discount codes, which we post on our social media, like you said, as well as theirs. We have, the casinos and everybody. If you are staying at a casino, or then you'd probably be at the Strip. Let's say hotels that are off the Strip. Majority of them have shuttle buses that will drive you to and from the Strip. So make sure to inquire with the hotel you're staying at, and ask them, what are the times? How do we get on the shuttle bus? Things like that. Because everybody wants you to have fun, but to do it safely.
Yeah, nobody wants anybody to not only pass away, but nobody wants to wear your bracelets.
Oh, yeah, right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
nobody wants to
absolutely.
sit in the back of the car. So let's go over that.
Yeah.
If you get in trouble and you are suspected of DUI from prescription drugs, non-prescription drugs, alcohol, the marijuana, you know what I mean? Any of that stuff, okay? You're in handcuffs.
Mm-hmm.
You're in the back of a patrol car, and you don't have a nice night, right? Because you're going to jail.
Absolutely. And imagine how crowded our jails are on New Year's Eve. Because not only are we dealing with impaired drivers, but we're dealing with a lot of domestic violence, domestics. People are drinking, partying, losing their tempers. We're dealing with normal calls for service that are on top of all these impaired drivers or intoxicated pedestrians that are down at the Strip causing problems, or let's just say we're very crowded that day.
Yeah.
Okay, the jails are very crowded. So you're going to be very uncomfortable at jail with a lot of different people. You're going to be there minimum 12 hours. If you're ever arrested for suspicion of impairment, you're going for a minimum 12 hours. On top of that, you're looking at possibly up to $10,000, if not more, in legal fees with your attorney and court fees. You're looking at probably community service or going to impact panels where you have to actually listen to victims of impaired drivers, of family members that have been taken from impaired drivers. It's quite a process, all because you didn't want to take the bus, or you didn't want to use a ride share or stay the night at a friend's house. And that's a good case scenario. Worst case scenario, you just ruined someone's life. You just ruined a family member, took a family member from a family that will no longer have them now because of your choice. So please don't even put yourself in that situation. Just use the resources that are out there. They're out there for you so that you can have a good time, but just do it responsibly.
Yeah, and not that it negates the fact, but and you lose your license.
Oh, yes. Yes.
Right, and so the thing is that, if you need to get to work, you're not getting to work now because you don't have license. And I think that it's what is it? It's a right to have a license. It's not a
Privilege.
a privilege. Yeah, you know what I mean. It's a privilege to have a license. It's not a right. Right.
Yes.
And so the thing is that your privileges can be taken away.
Absolutely, your license will be revoked for 90 days, up to 90 days. It could be longer. And if you refuse to do any evidentiary testing, the way the Nevada law states now, evidentiary testing consists of a blood draw or a breath test, Intoxilizer 8000. If you refuse testing and we apply for a search warrant, your license is revoked now for up to a year, instantly, for refusal. So you're on a year, and then once that's completed, you still have the other 90 days, that part of the DUI part. So you're looking at a year and 3 months. I mean, it's life-changing. Like you said, it could affect you going to and from work. It can affect you taking your children to school. I mean, you going to school. I mean, just it's life-changing.
Life-changing. Take the bus or do whatever. You know what I'm
just
saying?
plan ahead. It's so simple.
Right. It just doesn't make sense. Don't put yourself into that position. You know what I mean? Like, just find some other way to do it, or you know what I mean? Like, to get home, or, like we had Alex on the other day, and he said to walk.
I know.
Right? We never thought of that, right?
It's
like,
'cause I'm
listen,
always
find a bar. Go walk down the road.
It's because I'm always thinking highway. You can't walk on the highway. But he's absolutely right. Walk home.
Right.
Walk home from the bar.
Right.
Walk to your hotel from the strip or wherever you're at. Just do it safely, but don't even put yourself in that situation.
Don't put yourself in that situation. And that's what people are. We have to get them to understand, is to not put themselves into that situation.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, here we go.
There you go.
So, the Twitter page, you're always updating. If there's an accident, if there's something to be done, you know what I mean? All these type of things, and you're always updating for the ride shares. You're doing everything you can to tell people, please don't be impaired and get behind the wheel. Here is a safe alternative, right?
Yep.
That you can do to get home.
Yeah, absolutely. We partner up with these companies because we believe in their mission to save lives and to get people home safely, and that's exactly what we're out there doing as well. So it only makes sense for us to partner up because we're more powerful with numbers, and getting that message out there will reach more people and show them that, hey, there's a code if you want to use Lyft or Uber or the buses, RTC and stuff. But the best form of promoting something is just like communication itself.
Yeah.
No billboards, all that stuff. Like, I tell you, you tell 3 people, they tell 3 people, and just personal, like, talking to each other is like the fastest way to promote something.
All right, Trooper Wellman, thanks so much. Okay, we'll see you soon. Okay.
Thanks.
All right, we'll wave. All right, we'll see you soon.